Welcome to another inspiring edition of the Brandi Jo Show, your weekly dose of wealth and wisdom for a prosperous financial life. And here's your host, Brandi Jo Newman.
All right. Well, let's start with how you got into this business.
Okay. So I got into it a weird way.
Yeah.
I was a school teacher.
That was my look. I was going to say, I don't think anyone grows up and says, I want to.
No. Yeah. And then I always say, we always start in insurance, right? You start in the insurance world and then you start to move into investments and financial planning and stuff. So, but yeah, I was a school teacher before. I worked in Hollywood before that. And I moved into being a school teacher, and they like school teachers in insurance because we can explain things in a way that the financial people can't necessarily. Yeah. And we're organized. We're pretty organized, although my desk doesn't show that right now, but yes, we're organized. Exactly. So it's been good. I mean, and then I moved into financial planning from there. So
what did you do in Hollywood?
I was, I worked at a talent agency for two talent agencies for about 2 or 3 years. And then I moved to a production company and decided that it was very nice. I didn't have any problems with anybody, but I just didn't feel like I was helping anybody really. So yeah.
There's always that gnawing, are you supposed to be doing this feeling?
Exactly. Yeah. So, and the hours were crazy and they wanted you to give up your life to make a movie. I'm like, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. Okay. So I went to your websites, One Vision
cool.
Retirement, and you're fee-based.
Yeah.
So does that mean, and I get this question all the time because I'm not fee-based. Cool. Does that mean that you don't take any commissions?
No.
On any of the products that you play? Do you place products?
We do. I just placed an insurance product, and my business partner will do some because he's on the business side of things. So he does some insurance based stuff too. Yeah. Okay.
So you have someone that you basically forward that business to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's good. How long have you been doing this? A couple of years with your own
12
firm?
years.
12 years.
With our own firm? Yeah. No, with our own firm about 2 years.
Yeah, with this brand, right?
Yeah, 2.5-ish years. Yeah.
Okay. And I think we serve the same market. I'm 55 plus. What the hell am I gonna do when I hit retirement? How am I gonna spend my time?
Yeah, exactly.
I've run into a lot of people that they didn't have a vision. And so I love that your One Vision Retirement, the name of your company, is vision. And that's the first thing that I ask my potential clients to do. Just tell me a story. Tell me the story of what you envision your retirement to be.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of a coin flip 50-50 on who can do that. So I think clarity is of the utmost. I think that's a priority for most people. And if they don't have clarity, most of the time that foundation that you and I have built for them can sometimes crack and and it's not a pretty picture when you're sitting there talking to an 82-year-old and it's like, I don't know what happened. Well, I've been telling you what's going to happen for 20 years now.
Absolutely.
So it's, I think that clarity for people's next adventure, that's what I call it. It's the next adventure. And then, you also have to be mindful of your partner, your spouse, your husband, your wife. You're spending a hell of a lot more time with them. That's always an interesting conversation over cocktails.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
totally.
So you're in Southern California. Are you in LA?
We our home base is in San Diego. I'm actually technically in Northern Arizona. So we moved out of California.
Oh, thank God. Congratulations.
Yeah. So we're a virtual office. So actually my business partner is in San Diego, or is in Florida, and then
Okay.
our home office through our RIA is actually in San Diego. So
Okay.
yeah.
Excellent. So you're in Northern Arizona, where?
Prescott.
Very nice.
Yeah, we love it here. It's been a couple of years. So
I spent the late 90s in Phoenix and Scottsdale, and just driving that 2.5 hours Flagstaff and then coming back down, through
it's so
and
pretty.
Prescott was
Yeah.
amazing. So when you say that you're virtual, do you see anyone in the office there in Prescott?
I work from my house. So no office to see them. Every once in a while, if there's somebody local, I'll go meet with them in person. But I find that it's more, I'm more efficient. Well, especially from Southern California traffic, I'm more efficient. I'm actually able to get back to clients faster. I'm able to be more present with them by being virtual versus than driving around to see people or having them come in the office.
Do you find that people take less action or more action that you're virtual? I am as well.
I would say more action, to be
Yeah.
honest, because I can stay on top of them a little bit more.
And most of the time, we're not dealing with information seekers, we're dealing with solution seekers.
Yeah, exactly.
I run right now I'm running a multi-channel social media campaign, no paid ads whatsoever.
Wow.
And what resonates with most people, what gets the most views, the most clicks, the most shares, the most retweets, the most leads from those posts is where there is an actual solution in the content. And most, right now we're dealing with, what is it? The most amount of people in US history that are turning 65 in the same year.
Yeah.
And, I think they have like 70, is it 7 trillion or something like that in wealth that's going to be transferred over the next 10 years. The youngest baby boomer is 60. And then I'm an X. I'm a generation
Yeah,
X.
I'm an X too. I'm right at the tail end, but
I'm not going to see any transfer of wealth. So my family has seen to it that they enjoyed all of their wealth. So good for them. I have my own. So that there you go.
Yeah, exactly.
When you sit down, in this virtual environment, in this digital environment, laptop to laptop, what are the steps that people have to go through to become a client? Do you qualify them? Is there minimums that you look for? Anything like that?
There's a minimum fee that we it's on our website. It's $2,500 annually, which I think is pretty low actually for our business. But essentially we can come at it lots of different ways. So it's not just about assets under management for us. We can do financial planning fees. We do monthly consultations. We can work with people where they're at. We actually have the capability now to help people with their 401ks and help manage their 401ks, even if we're not the advisor on the plan. So we've got ways to help them lots of different ways.
So when you say that now you have the capability to help someone with their 401k, are you talking about the actual investment choices that they have within that 401k? Or you use
we can actually go in and do that.
Okay.
So
funny story. This was 17 years ago. I walked into my client's office. She's a cardiothoracic surgeon, and she's in her 401k account for this hospital system, and she's selling the red checks or the red X's, and she's buying the green checks. And she has a credenza. She has her back to me when I walk in the door. I said, "What are you doing?" And she says, "I'm getting rid of the losers and I'm buying the winners." And I said, "So you're selling the cheap ones and you're buying the expensive ones?" And she thought about it for a minute, and she's like, "Oh yeah." And this was probably the third meeting with her. We had placed life insurance, disability insurance. We had done all that. And then we were moving into, the already money that the assets that she already had on the books. And Morningstar wrote something about, how you revisit your 401k on a quarterly basis. And she was doing that. She was single at the time. And I asked her, I said, how many times are you doing this? Like how often are you going in and selling red X's and buying green checks? And she says, oh, about once a week. So there was just yeah. So the fees and all the things. And I was like, okay. And so that was the day where I was, to get, the stack of account statements and do, an analysis and then a forecast for, and I showed her the thing that I would do is that I would go and build a spreadsheet to show her how much she was costing herself by, diddling around with it. And she was maxing it out and she was only getting a match up to 4.5% at that time. So it was just education, she had been listening to, Ramsey in the afternoon and the Ormans of the world. And it was all, when you lay it out in front of somebody, it makes sense when you see it all on one sheet of paper. And she's like, oh, okay, this is not good. So she drops it back down to 4.5%. And then she goes and buys real estate. And, she's a very happy lady now. So when someone comes in, how do you not qualify them, but how do you go through their current personal economy? And do you work with businesses and how do you extract that information?
Yeah. So my personal practice, I tend to work with a lot of female executives and solo entrepreneurs or very small business owners. My business partner handles a lot of the bigger business stuff. So we have the capability of doing that. Personally, I don't do a lot of it. Mainly because I don't love working with the 401k providers. So they drive me insane. But
on this anti 401k rant lately.
I know. Well, the 401k is such a you probably believe this too. It's such a fallacy that all you do is you max out your 401k and you'll be good. But nobody's thinking about taxes in retirement. Nobody's thinking about if I want to retire at 50, how am I going to access my money? Like any of these other things. And so just like you, I like working with people before they retire because we can make some changes to stuff rather than like, oop, you're in retirement and I can't help you other than like say, sorry, you put it in the wrong thing. I mean, like, I don't like doing that, like being proactive. And the 401k is a, it's a sticky subject. Some people are just gung-ho, put all your money in the 401k and they can't see any different because that's what they've been taught their whole lives. So it's kind of a funny thing, but
it's our generation that has been taught that. I mean, the 401k really didn't come into existence until 1984.
Exactly.
And then, I still have a couple of pensions from Guardian and One America. That money's guaranteed to be there unless One America and Guardian go belly up. But that some people do look at a 401k like it's a pension and it's like, no, it's, you can't even, it's not even an intelligent comparison.
Yeah. We're doing actually a talk tomorrow. We do these little 15-minute webinars called coffee breaks. And anybody interested, they can go on our YouTube channel and see replays of them. In the show notes. Yeah. But we're actually talking about target date funds. And I don't think people understand what target date funds are, how they work, how they're not all made the same. You gotta look at expenses. I mean, it's just, I don't think people know because they just kind of put it in there and they let it ride. And honestly, sometimes I've told clients just to stay in the target date fund because I know they're not going to look at their 401k until I make them look at it again.
Yeah. So, and just like I posted a little bit of a rant earlier on LinkedIn and YouTube about you've got to have a PhD in economics and finance, and then you have to know the tax code in and out, and people talk about loopholes and that kind of thing. I don't believe that there are loopholes in the tax code. I believe that there are procedures within the tax code that you can either take or not take.
Exactly.
I interviewed a lady this weekend who does spendthrift trusts. They're pretty
Oh,
expensive. It's patented. There's I want to say it's a law firm out of maybe Arizona, Southern California, one of those, but it's like, it's like 20 grand to do the trust. You got to have millions of dollars to make that
yeah.
economical, to make that capital expenditure make sense. But just the fact that most, and I shouldn't say most, the W-2 employees that I run into that are 40 plus, 2 kids, spouse, both spouses might be working, and just if they would invest in something that gave them a little bit of business income, their taxes would plummet, and then they would have all of this free cash flow to do other things with. And financial literacy has this connotation that you're dealing with, for lack of a better word, and I'm not a wordsmith, but that you're dealing with poor people and that you're trying to stop the perpetuation of poverty. I'm sorry, some of the most educated people that I know have no clue about financial knowledge and education.
Mm-hmm.
So it's first of all, it's an unlearning of sorts. And some people do get to a point where they're like, okay, we're just going to erase everything, clear the whiteboard, start all over. In your coffee talks, do you take on, and let me ask you this from a marketing point of view, do you do 15 minutes because that's all anyone can really stand anymore?
I think so. That's what I do. I kind of figure if it's made for the working person, they can take 15 minutes to watch it. And actually, we're pretty fast. We're actually mainly around 11
well, there you
minutes,
go.
to be honest.
But
it's usually just to kind of let them have a break from work and that kind of thing. Cause I know that people aren't sitting on their Saturday afternoon being like, let's watch a financial thing about target date fund. Like they're not going to be doing that. They are actually probably going to take a break at work and go to YouTube and watch it if they want to. So yeah, I do 15 minutes because honestly, videos over about 15 minutes, I start to squirm in my seat. And then isn't there that TED Talk rule that it's like 22 minutes and,
that's what I was going to
people
say.
start to lose interest? Yeah. So yeah, that was kind of the reason for that more than anything.
So the Tuesday, Thursday classes in college are, you only learn about 30% of what is being taught because those in Texas, Tuesday, Thursday classes are almost 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And then Monday, Wednesday, Friday classes are 45.
And they're like at 8 o'clock in the morning, right after a long night out.
No, I never.
I had one.
Not 9 o'clock was my first class. And I was,
oh, really?
I was like, why do you think I have to go to class at 8 o'clock?
I had a professor I really wanted to take freshman year, and he's taught English, and they always did the freshman English course, but he was the one I kind of really wanted to take. And he was at 8 o'clock, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Mm-hmm. And he said, if you're not here by 8:05, don't bother coming in because I lock the door.
Yeah. And
you were only allowed to miss, of course, a couple of classes and stuff. And so people would show up hungover or not. They were,
there you go.
They were there.
Got to make if you're going to advise on discipline, you got to make them accountable.
Exactly.
So let's talk about the coming kind of the avalanche of retirees. And let's talk about the new retirement reality. I've been reading some papers and studies out of Australia. They have an 82-year lifespan. Their life expectancy is 82 in Australia, and they're starting to see the effects of living too long down there.
Yeah.
We're at 78, creeping to 79. Everyone that I know that is retired, fully retired, plays golf, sails, travels, gambles, they're all 78 plus.
Mm-hmm.
One is pushing 90.
Wow.
My wife trains somebody that's 99. Personal train center home.
Wow.
Yeah. So let's talk about the risk of longevity, outliving your money. And
Mhm.
there's
Yeah.
there's a new hashtag called FORO, fear of running out.
Oh, interesting. I'll have to use
Yeah,
that.
you got to share that one. I got that from the Australian guy too.
I
It's like I'm
love
going to
that.
steal all of this.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So let's talk about
Yeah.
how most people don't run out of money. Let's talk about successful retirement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think first and foremost, retirement, and I don't know if you've seen this as well, retirement has a different meaning a lot of times now. Like you've got those people who are like, get me out of here, I want to retire as soon as possible. And then you have those people who are like, I'm never retiring. I don't want to, there's that old wives' tale, obviously, my friends, brothers, sisters, friend, down the line, he died 2 weeks after retiring, and I don't want to be that guy. And so you have a whole chunk of people who don't want to retire, especially those who moved off and started their own business or maybe do consulting or something like that. They don't want to necessarily retire. And so I always kind of first find out with people what retirement looks like for them, whether that means just slowing down and that kind of thing, or you have a lot of people, especially in real estate, are like, I'm never going to retire. And I always say, well, when would you like to slow down, or when would you like to have the choice
or
to
when are you going
retire?
to transfer the responsibility of managing that portfolio to someone else?
Exactly.
To
Exactly.
either an apprentice or a mentee, that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think the retirement aspect has to be kind of thought about in multiple ways, because you just never know if you're 45 and you're thinking about retirement when you're 60 or when you're 65, retirement might look totally different for you just because you're a different person, as we grow in age. So that's one thing. But the other thing is that I think having multiple buckets, or you and I know we use buckets a lot in our industry, but multiple buckets, multiple streams of income, multiple different ways that things are taxed is probably the best way to make sure you don't run out of money in retirement, just because you have lots of different options. You're not just pulling from one thing. You don't have just taxes on your 401k that you're pulling out. You have multiple streams of either income or buckets to pull from, or other things like that fit for your situation. And I think that that's the most important part of longevity planning, is just kind of having multiple things doing different works. The other thing is I think a lot of people are too, this is a very blanket statement. Obviously it depends on everybody's personal situation, but they tend to be a little too conservative in retirement with their investments. And so, having, like I said, different buckets that maybe have different risk categories to them might be better than what everybody does, which is they pull back to a 40-60 portfolio, or 40% stock, 60% bonds. And they say, okay, this is my retirement portfolio. Well, we saw in 2022 what happened to bonds. Bonds were horrible last year. I mean, they're the worst they ever have been. So that's not necessarily your only option to, put all of your money in this one allocation and go, we're done. It's about really spreading out the risk by having different buckets and having different risk associated to those buckets, I think.
And the impact that taxes have. I interviewed James DeLilio, who's a PhD in economics at Pepperdine, and he developed a calculator that, and I interviewed him, and of course he wants to share his screen, and he went through the entire calculator. I don't think that's going to get very many views on YouTube.
I probably would view it, but yes.
I mean, and that's what I told him. He's like, I'm sorry if I got really too technical. I said, it's totally fine. I said, I will share the screenshots from the calculator, because it makes more sense when you see it, on one screen. I said, but mostly industry people are going to listen to this, because it does make a huge impact when you see how much tax you're paying when you start peeling off, when you start selling assets for income, and how much tax you pay on whichever bucket you pull from. So there's sequence of returns, there's sequence of asset transfer. And you just don't want that you don't want that tax line to be so overwhelming that you kind of lose faith in the entire system. Plus, I don't think very many people realize that at some point in our world, we will be single tax filers once again.
Yeah.
And whether that's, me or Claudia, I don't know, but I want to make sure that she doesn't, if I go out first, I don't want her to have to sit there and say, oh my God, I have all of this stuff, but now I have to give half of it to the government. And,
Exactly.
the strategies within that, and the structures and the instruments. And, when I say structures, it's, you can still run a business in retirement. And when I say instruments, we're talking about products. And we're talking about different types of accounts. So it's daunting, but you've got to find somebody that you trust that has a real, can take your pulse every once in a while and empathize with you, I think, because people just want to be confident that their dreams and desires are achieved and lived out. I don't think anybody wants to get to a point in their life where, especially later on, that they have to choose, not to do something that they really want to do.
Exactly.
And you mentioned something earlier, that retirement is completely different now. It is. I mean, the new retirement reality is completely different. And I had a mentor, he's since passed on, but he did not like retirement. And he worked until he was 91 years old.
Oh my
still
gosh.
traveling, still doing seminars and workshops.
Crazy.
And he would just say, stop calling it retirement, because that was the pre-baby boomers. I don't know what generation that is. What is that?
I don't either.
We need to look that one up. So
know.
pre-baby
Is that
boomer.
the greatest generation? Is that what they're
Okay.
called, or something
There
like
you
that?
go. So they were 100% pension funded, but they also didn't live very long.
Yeah.
And he says, now that we're living so much longer, and he says, I don't believe the life expectancy or the actuarial tables that's coming out of the US econ data zoo. He didn't believe it. And he likes to categorize it, or he liked to categorize it as passive income, because, you build up these assets, and then you have to turn on the income spigot at some point in your life. So, I mean, I don't know if we can ever change the retirement moniker, but I mean, I'd like to. The what's one of the most interesting coffee talks that you've had that resonated with your audience?
Oh,
Do you track
I would
that
say
at all?
we do a little bit. Yeah. And so we only just started. So we're just doing our third one tomorrow.
Okay.
So yeah,
Great.
we're very new on this. But I would say the one that I think I've heard the most about is the one we just did on inflation, and how inflation actually affects your investments. People don't realize that. They don't understand how interest rates kind of affect everything, and how it works with inflation, and how inflation can affect stocks and bonds and all that stuff. So we kind of go through that on that side of it. But I've been doing videos on YouTube for, gosh, almost the whole 2.5 years I've been doing, we've been out doing One Vision. So, so there's lots of, and I would say the one that had the most traction on there is probably the inflation talk too. I sing a little bit in it, so I think that's the reason that people are watching it. But, I think it's also because of inflation. And that's the biggest thing that people are concerned about is buying power. And how are we? And also, I think it was something that people kind of understood the concept of, but nobody I mean, there were some people that were younger that felt the 70s, the baby boomers, that kind of thing, but they feel that time was with such disdain. I mean, my mom's told me the story a million times about how she to stand in line to get gas in her car, and she, like the whole thing. And it's just, they're fearful of that happening again. I don't know if it will, I hope not. But essentially, I think it's inflation was just kind of one of those terms that were thrown around because we were in such a low inflationary period for so long. And now people are like, I don't even know what that means, and why are things costing more.
we got lulled to sleep for 15 years of easy money.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
Yeah.
really, we hit peak QE in 2010. That was 6 trillion. And then we printed another 6 trillion for COVID. So we've got
Yeah.
12 trillion fake dollars that are floating around. And now we see the issues. And, you know, people don't, here's a great analogy. This is from my mentor. Great kind of word picture. You walk to your mailbox to get the mail. I'm not even sure people do that anymore, but somehow you get a check in the mail and it's for $1 million. And you're like, holy crap, this is awesome. And then you look down the street and everybody else has $1 million check too. So it really doesn't do any good. And then the car dealers, the golf instructors, the golf courses, the golf manufacturers, the sailboat people, the hotels, the resorts. Well, hey, everybody's got another $1 million. Let's try and get some of it. And that's my kind of way that I explain inflation. We literally dropped money from the sky during COVID. So
yes.
And then the other thing, you know, you mentioned how interest rates and inflation affect asset prices. So if, you know, let's just say company A that's worth, you know, $500 billion, they've got $100 billion in loans that they're servicing and they're adjustable. So that interest rate on that $100 billion just went up. Where are they going to find that money? They're going to fire people.
Oh yeah.
That's the way that works. I mean, it's pretty simple when you think about it like that. Have you run into anybody that has gotten laid off like in their late 50s?
Yeah, I have. There's actually a couple of women that I started working with when they got laid off. You know, companies got you know, actually most of theirs was on mergers and things like that.
So their position was eliminated or was redundant.
Yeah, or redundant. Yeah, exactly. So, or, you know, they just didn't feel like they were part of the company culture anymore. And so, you know, it was mutual on both sides kind of thing. So,
did they receive a severance or any kind of an exit package or anything like that?
Yeah, because I do tend to work with a lot of executives, so they did get a severance and they got that kind of thing. But the job market's harder than people think it is right now. I mean, we're not necessarily seeing it in the unemployment numbers, but it does take. I mean, one of my clients was kind of surprised how long it took her to find. You know, she got a job that she adores now. I mean, she just loves it, but it took her a good 6 months to find another position. And especially in those higher positions like that, it's definitely harder. And she was using that opportunity to take a step up. And that's always even more difficult because you're competing with people who have experience in that time at that point.
I have a couple of clients that they were laid off late fall, October, November, respectively. And one found a job in April and the other one hasn't found a job yet. And the one that found a job, well, I shouldn't say found a job, you know, she picked the company that she thought she could be happy with and took a 50% pay cut.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh goodness.
So thank God she's in real estate as well.
Yeah.
But the other one still hasn't found a job. And I'm like, go hang a placard and consult. Do some online course, get on YouTube, get on Instagram and show people what you've got. And she's 52. The other one just turned 50. I think turns 50 this week. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been happening more and more, particularly for women. I've noticed a lot, because you know, it sounds like you use LinkedIn a lot too. I've noticed a lot in the human resources side. I see a lot of people with human resources and that kind of background who are looking for new opportunities, as they put it, on there. And I don't know if they're cutting a lot in that division or what's happened, but I've noticed that a lot. It could be the algorithm too, that they just keep showing up for me, but but yeah, it's kind of interesting.
The aspect of, you know, a 30 well, at least a 20-year retirement horizon. And you mentioned earlier that most people, I shouldn't say most, that some people are too conservative during retirement. And I'm one of these people that I think it's a third. A third needs to be fixed. Like, no matter what happens, this is the money that will continue to show up contractually. And that doesn't include Social Security, because who knows what the hell is going to happen with Social Security.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then a third in, something that is conservative, and then another third in some sort of, not anything that you can consider speculative, but something that is always, in play, that you're positioned properly to take in the trend, that you're not just either chasing returns or you're following the crowd, but that you're positioned properly, and that you should have some liquidity in order to take advantage of, private opportunities as well. Let's talk about Social Security. I think it's 2033 that it's supposed to be completely gone. Somebody said yesterday that they're going to cut current Social Security recipients by 24%. That's one of their strategies.
I don't see that. Yeah, I don't see that. That's just my personal opinion. I don't see that happening. That's political suicide, and they know that.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to affect all of us who aren't taking it yet, or 55 and under kind of thing.
So the way that Social Security is now, not everyone pays into Social Security. I mean, everyone pays something, but they don't pay, the match, or the, they're within the limits, or they're beyond the limits. So someone who makes over $160,000 a year, they're only paying in up to that point. And so whatever money they make on top of that, so let's just say that somebody makes $1 million. There's, $840,000 that is not susceptible to Social Security tax. Big chunk that we're missing.
Yeah, it is.
Because I do think we need some sort of socialized, community supported, taxpayer supported, however you want to say it, to take care of people. Because I think we've missed the boat on keeping it localized. I had a friend that ran for governor, and she ran on a platform of the 5 pillars within a community, and that, we shouldn't be looking to government to save us and everything. But I think maybe that boat has sailed, and now we need to make sure that the government does have the capabilities to save us all and stop printing so much money, because all we're doing is propping it up. I mean, all we're doing is kicking the can down the road to the eventual failure of our entire capitalistic society. Do you do anything with crypto? Do you have any clients that deal with crypto? Do you analyze crypto at all? Or I should say,
not really. I watch it. I know enough about it, but we don't really give any advice on it, just because, as you know, the SEC doesn't want us to. We can get in trouble for that.
That's another reason. So I just have a life insurance license. I keep studying for the 65, but I've got a lot of people and a lot of friends and a lot of clients that, they're dipping in Bitcoin. They're and in Texas, Mark DeRazio, who's state rep, District 122, there's a bill in committee that is a digital coin in Texas that is backed by gold.
Interesting.
There's another coin that just came out, and it had a little flourish last year, and I hate to see those kinds of charts. GLDN. It's a asset backed coin with gold, water, and diamonds. So, limited asset. I think it's like, 40 or 50 cents right now, but it makes all the sense in the world to me to have a decentralized currency that is actually backed by something that's real.
Yeah.
With the money supply going through the roof, the interest rates have to follow. And that's the other thing, is that people don't go back and they don't study. I mean, if you look at what happened during the 70s, which really happened started happening in 1968, and then didn't really come to a head until 1982.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a good 14 years of this escalating inflationary environment. And they paused, the Fed paused in the 70s. You saw interest rates go up, and then you saw them come back down. You saw them pause and then come back down a little bit. And then they ramped it back up until you got to 21% in 1981. So this is what I was going to say earlier, that there's two sides to this inflation coin. I picked the right family to be born into. So I was very blessed, very lucky. And I had a great aunt that left a substantial amount of money to me, and it was all in CDs. I remember going to the mailbox and getting checks from these CDs that were, 14, 16, 18, 1.20% were being paid on cash that was sitting in a bank.
Isn't it crazy? Wow.
So there's two sides to the deal. And so, when I was being trained with the Merrills and the Prus and the Park Avenues and the One Americas of the world, it was always, when interest rates go up, the stock market goes down, because people believe that they can not take on so much risk and still get some sort of return on their money. So right now the Fed funds rate is what, 5.5?
I think it's 5.5-ish. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which that's 5,000% from what we were getting.
I know. Exactly.
When you're face to face with a client, like what are the stories that you're hearing about, like what they're telling themselves? I mean, do you hear stories like, I just want to make sure I can get through whatever is coming, kind of a thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on the client and the time that they're in, right? So obviously retirees are a little bit more skittish of the everyday, day-to-day of what's happening in politics, what's happening with the Fed, that kind of thing. The working woman doesn't have time to really think about that too much. That's why I'm around. But I would say the stories I keep hearing, which is kind of it's interesting to me. I was expecting to hear, I've heard everybody say groceries are so expensive, but nobody's really stopping their lifestyle. I have not seen one person be like, oh, we're not going to take our trip to Europe this year because of inflation or because of prices or because of the airlines. Like, everybody is still living their life. And I think that that's why the numbers are coming out and are surprising everybody on, consumer confidence is down and that kind of thing. But I haven't met a lot of people who have stopped living their lives, who have decided to buckle down too much. The people who've said that they're going to put off buying a house or anything were kind of not that into it to begin with. I hate to put it that way, but they were kind of buying a house because they thought they were supposed to, or that kind of thing. And that's a whole other topic we can get into, is what the shoulds that we think we should be doing, when in reality, you need to kind of be doing. Yeah, I am too, because I think, as much as I would say this all the time, our house is paid off. We own our clear house. We love it. People will show me on paper that I should have done this and economically be better, but I like owning our house. But that doesn't mean everybody should own a house. That doesn't mean everybody should have that as a goal of theirs. And the goals are just so, goals are important, but they're also the bane of my existence, because I have to break people down in their goals, because they're always the same goals in retirement. There's no way that everybody has the same goals. So I would say that's kind of what I'm hearing more and more, is that they're seeing the increase in, eggs and all that stuff. And eggs is, what's interesting though, this, just to kind of go off subject, if you look at some of the reasons that some of these things are inflated, it also doesn't necessarily have anything to do with inflation. There's a flu that's going around with the egg population, and that's making them more scarce. And so therefore, it's inflated, but it wasn't just because inflation happened. It's because of this this avian flu that's going around, and that the eggs are more scarce. And so obviously with more scarce becomes more, it's more expensive. And so there's just other aspects that go into it rather than what the, media is kind of putting out there is, oh, eggs are so expensive just because of inflation. It's expensive because of supply and demand too.
Well, and you have this
so
hangover, this kind of hangover supply chain effect from COVID.
Oh yeah.
And I hear it every single solitary day is that Brandi, I can't hire quality people anymore. I cannot find them. And I said, because those quality people have started their own business. They've gone out and they've done something else. And that's the reason. So
the Great Resignation.
You have to pay them more to give up on their dream.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and some of them, it was kind of funny. So there was that huge talk about the Great Resignation, but I was reading an article the other day, and like 80% of the people who were part of the Great Resignation starting their own business kind of regret it because they didn't realize how difficult it was being a business owner, and how they weren't going to get benefits anymore, and they weren't going to get it at 401k match and those, that short-term disability and all that stuff that was available to them before. They didn't think about that. And I was actually talking to a friend of mine who's a CPA, and she makes a good point, which is often as business owners, we're treating ourselves worse than the company we came from because we're not offering ourselves in retirement benefits and health benefits and all that stuff. We're just kind of winging it, and they almost took better care of us than we're taking care of ourselves, which is a really interesting way of thinking of it. So it's kind of an interesting journey that's going on for some people.
People think that owning a business or running a business or being a consultant or being an entrepreneur, they somehow have this vision that, I make my own schedule and I work with the people that I want to work with. And that is not necessarily the case.
True.
90% of the time. Being an entrepreneur is super hard. And most of the time, and this is again from my mentor, most businesses don't make a profit if you run them properly. Most businesses don't make a profit for 5 years. And so therefore the owner should not be making any kind of income from that business.
Yeah.
Whether it's, whether you're dealing with a brick and mortar business and dealing with products or digital products or services.
It's true. It is true.
A good 5 years to get it solidified and going. We're feeling it a little bit, but to your point, we're still going to Florida to play in 2 golf tournaments. We're still going to Arizona later this summer to play in a national event. We still buy eggs, and we buy the cage-free. We buy the fancy eggs. We were already paying $5 for eggs prior to $5 eggs. Now we're paying $7 for eggs.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
But we're still going out to dinner. But I think we're going to see that squeeze later on.
Probably. Yeah. I think that's definitely going to come. I just don't think it's hit yet.
It hasn't.
Because we're still on, like you said, there's still hangover from COVID, 3 years later, essentially. And, people are still excited about getting out and doing things. And because really 2021 people didn't really do very much either. So it's been, it's only been really a year that people felt comfortable getting out and doing things. And so I do think that we're seeing kind of the high off of COVID that's kind of taking us through some of this. But I think people are rethinking priorities a lot too. I think there's going to be a time that I do a financial values exercise with some of my clients just so that they can get their goals and everything aligned the right way. And yeah, it's an interesting idea. It's a really interesting exercise. So basically what I do is I take them through, you probably have heard of this, but there's a financial planner out there called George Kinder who does these 3 questions. And so I take them through that. And they basically, this is very much summarizing it, but it's basically, if you had all the money in the world, what would you do differently? How would you live your life? If you only had 5 more years to live, and you knew that, how would you live your life? And if you found out that tomorrow was your last day, what would you regret? And, really probing into that, it gets some of their ideas. And then we take them into an actual financial values exercise where they come up with 5 words that are their core values.
5,
This
okay.
is because we could do 3. It's hard. A lot of times it's hard to get them down to 5. So 5 is where I stop the pain.
Turning around looking at my bulletin board. I showed this to Claudia the other day, and I said, there are my values. And she says, oh my God. Because I think there's like 22 or something like that.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. So 5 is what I get them to. So I could go on an index card.
Yeah.
I love it. So, but yeah, it's funny though. The values always tend to, not always, but for a lot of people, it goes back to family, spending time with family, whether it's their nuclear family or it's their extended family, or seeing that cousin that they haven't seen for a long time that they wish they had, or whatever it is. It's a lot about family, spending time with family. How do I spend more time with my family? Or how do I spend more time with my friends who have become my family? Like, it's really about relationships more than anything.
It's about connection, and we can get into the whole woo-woo about oneness.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Last 2 ladies that I interviewed, one wrote a book on manifesting and money. She's a CFP. And the other one turned financial coach, got away from registered rep and insurance, and just became financial coach with an online course, focused on manifesting and, the vision and, how you speak to yourself. I think that's a huge thing in everything that we do.
Yeah.
Is how we talk to ourselves.
Oh, I have a whole talk that I do on that, what we say to ourselves, how we're goal setting not the right way.
Yeah.
How those little steps that we take that we go, no, especially as women, we go, well, we want to take on like the big, it's the New Year's resolution. I'm going to save $1,000 per month. I'm not saving anything now, but I'm going to save $1,000 per month. Yeah. And we just jump into it rather than being like, let's start with 50. Let's start with $100 a month. Let's start to build into that, because, we want to take it on. We want to be victorious, but the baby stepping is really the key to getting to financial independence, in my opinion.
And it's two sides of the behavioral coin.
Yeah. You
can start super. I mean, how do we tie our shoes? How do we start to walk?
Exactly.
I mean, how do we brush our teeth before we go to bed? Which, I still do just once a week on that. I still haven't learned that, and I'm 50. I forget. Up off, but then I was like, oh crap, I forgot to brush my teeth. It's a behavior, and everything that we do is just a series of behaviors that we have myelinated around neural paths in our brain.
Yeah.
And
it's true.
Yeah, and it's super simple when you break it down to that one little thing. Just start with $1 and compound it.
Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree.
January 1st, we started with $1 and then we just compounded daily.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I really think that we don't see the small steps as victories. We always think it's getting to, I don't know what it's getting to. I mean, when you hit $1 million, is that when you stop? Not really, because, you and I will tell them that might not be enough money. And so it's like, what is it, 2 or 3 million?
Now.
Yeah, exactly. And it feels like, we're always waiting to pat ourselves in the back till we hit these huge goals. Why not pat ourselves in the back for just looking at our credit card statement once a week and making sure that, we know what we're spending our money on? Like you said, going back to the clarity, right? Going back to the awareness of what we're spending our money on makes a huge difference on things.
Do you find that women in general, so you work with, you worked with some executive high-powered women.
Yeah.
Do you find that how should I put this? That their persona is much bigger than what they think of themselves when it comes to money.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I hear all the time these really amazing women that are VPs of company, COOs, they're high up there. There's one's a CEO of a company she's not owner of, but she's the CEO. And essentially they will say to me, I'm a mess when it comes to my finances. And typically that's not true. I mean, they're
Right.
putting in their 401k, they've got some savings, they're not like overspending typically. Well, some of them are. I do have some people that overspend because we have that creep, right? You make more money and your expenses creep up with it. But essentially, they really think that they're doing it all wrong because they don't have the fancy trick or I don't know what they think it is, but they think
compare
they're doing it
themselves.
wrong.
Yeah.
Oh
so
yeah.
and probably most of these women are going to masterminds, they're in study groups together, and then they're comparing themselves to other people. Single lady, again, I think she just turned 50, in real estate, has her own consulting firm, but she's in this mastermind, and she says, Brandi Jo, all these other people that are younger than me have way more money than me. I said, are you taking out your states and comparing them at the conference?
Yeah. No.
That's what they say. And I said, okay, let's just chalk that up to they're full of shit, because that is not the case. And why are you talking about that in a study
I
group?
don't know. Yeah, it's so crazy. Well, and we have perception, right? We always think, oh, she's
reality.
doing, I have a multi-million-dollar business. That's wonderful. What do you net from that? What do are you in the red still? I mean, it doesn't matter how much they gross. It depends on, I was just talking to, I'm a SCORE mentor as well. I was talking to this, one lady, and she was saying, do I need to know gross or net? I'm like, you need to know net if you're trying to sell a business, because
every day, every morning,
gross doesn't matter.
Nope.
It's just crazy. So I think, I have a piece that I put together called Baby Step Your Way to Financial Independence. That's on our website. And people can download it. And I really think it's about giving yourself that forgiveness of, it's okay that we haven't started yet. It's okay that we haven't done X, Y, and Z yet. Let's just start doing something.
Right.
And that, like you said, the miracle of a baby step is amazing. They weren't able to raise their head up by themselves 9 months before, and now they're completely independent, right? They're running around, you're chasing them. That's how fast they are. I just think that we need to slow it down, and the comparison is going to be natural. I was listening to a podcast that I thought was really interesting, where he said, we always say, don't compare yourself. It's human nature to compare yourself. You're not going to be able to get away from that. But you have the ability to filter that and to sit back and talk to yourself in a way that you can overcome some of those comparisons. And I think that's true. I think that the more knowledge you can get, the more secure you're going to get. One of the baby steps is just read a financial article once a week, once a month, something. How often, I mean, you and I read stuff all the time, but how often are they reading something about how a trust works, or how, they don't read anything on it because they think it's going to be over their heads, but really it's written for them.
Right.
So, read an article, talk with your friend about it, have an honest discussion. I agree with you. It's BS, everything that's coming out in these mastermind groups. Have a real discussion with a friend so you can hear that they probably have the same concerns you do about their financial situation.
Exactly. Well, Lisa, this has been great. Thank you so much. To my people.
Yeah. Us financial people can talk all day long, right?
Yes, we can. You want to share just snippet of, where people can find you on LinkedIn, your website, all of that?
Yeah, exactly. So our website is onevisionretire.com. If you wanted that piece, you would just put /resources. And there's a couple of different pieces, but the baby step piece is in there. And I think is the most helpful for people to get started. And then on LinkedIn, I post every workday, and it's a lot of money mindset stuff. It's not a lot of, I don't get in the weeds about like rates of return and stuff, because it just depends on the person that I'm talking to. So happy to have anybody follow, connect, that kind of thing, start a conversation. I'm happy to network on there as well. So those are probably our two things. And then, our YouTube channel, I do upload a new video every single week on there.
What's that channel? One Vision Retirement?
It's at One Vision Retirement.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
You can get a PhD on YouTube these days. I love it.
I know you can. YouTube's amazing.
Lisa, thank you so much. And when I'm driving through Prescott later this
let me know.
Fall,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'll ping you.
Sounds good. I'm excited.
Right. Have a great week. Thank you so much.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to The Brandi Jo Show. You can find out more on her website, brandijonewman.com.